You know that astronaut Buzz Aldrin, Kurt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Do you know he got married?
I did see that. Yes.
He's 93.
Good for him.
He's 93.
He wants to work.
And he got married.
Okay, so is he leaving his space rocks to a lucky?
It's like a Bill Burr bit. That's what this is. You ready? That's his wife.
How old is his wife?
I don't know. 18? I don't know. How old does she look?
She doesn't look 18.
No, I'm kidding. But she's, I don't know. What is she, half his age? I don't know.
There's no telling.
She 40? I don't know. 50? If she's 50, she's still 43 years younger than him.
Oh, so he was using his power over. So he groomed her.
He groomed her. You know,
He used his power as an astronaut. Oh wait, who's that?
that's them.
That's Buzz Aldrin?
That's Buzz Aldrin now.
Oh wow. He still looks like he could punch out that guy that told me he
Wait
didn't
a
go to the
minute.
moon.
That doesn't look like
Yeah,
Buzz
no.
Aldrin.
That looks
That's
like
not
a
Buzz
different
Aldrin.
guy.
That must be her dad or something.
Oh.
That's not
Dad.
Buzz, because that's Buzz.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
Buzz.
that's not the same woman.
I don't know what the next one
That's
is.
not even the same. Is that? Oh, that must be her parents.
It is?
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Oh.
I didn't put this together. Oh, wait, I did put this together. I was high when I put this together. But I saw this. I thought this was interesting. I don't know who the fuck that is. But I know who this is. That's Buzz Aldrin.
It looks like that writer that always used to go on and fight with he had he was a boxer and he had like kind of curlyish hair. Oh, I can't remember.
Jimmy,
Anyway.
I just want you to get ready for this. She's 63 years old.
No!
Yeah.
It says so.
Yeah.
He's
I
robbing
was
the
gonna say,
cradle.
it looked like
Robbing the cradle. He goes someone
Wow.
30 years his junior.
wow.
That would be like me going with someone who's 27.
She's old enough to be his great granddaughter's grandmother. She's
I mean, think about it. That's weird, right? When you think about you're 30 years old and she's just born,
She looks amazing.
right? Like if you think about that, did anybody else think
I
that's
think-
weird? Like you're 30 years old. Think about somebody that's 30 years old and then you marry them.
She looks amazing for 63, doesn't she?
okay, in the one picture, yeah. Then the other one, there's something where it's like you can really tell something was done.
Oh, which one?
Right, on the one on the right. Yeah, that one. Like I can really make out there's been her facial skin is probably in a scrunchie behind her head.
I think she looks good.
Well, for 63,
Nothing wrong with a scrunchie behind your head.
Hey,
pulling your flesh back. It's
if I
Come
could
on,
do it, I will.
bitches.
Did you see somebody posted something about Madonna? Some place like this is like clean living. It makes you ageless, and Madonna looks like it was one of the craziest things I've ever read.
No, I haven't seen that. It's weird when you see the stars that you grew up with age, and you're like, oh, I'm aging like that too. Then like when I see Joey from Friends, and he's got full head of gray hair. It's like, Joey, dye your hair. Do it for me.
Oh, for Joey,
Makes me
I think
feel
it's weird when they
old.
get bad work. I'd rather see him just be old.
You mean
than-
face work?
I mean, it very rarely looks like. I guess if it looks good, I didn't know they got it.
I
If
like
could-
big lips and big cheeks on these broads. I think they
Man.
look great.
ass
Am I
cheeks.
wrong?
Everybody get these gigantic lips, and but I don't know. There it is. Congratulations to Buzz Aldrin.
There's something about like too much like face puffery. 63 that it gets uncanny valley to me.
Her name is Dr. Anka Fowler. They've tied the knot. Wow. I wonder. They're as excited as eloping. So she's a doctor. So she's probably not. This is probably maybe. I don't know. It's just like she's a doctor, and she's 63. So she's probably already got cash, right?
I'd like to see a sitcom of them, and here you go to the moon, Anka. she gets out a lot.
But you know that Bill Burr bit, right, about the gold diggers, and I don't think she's a gold digger, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think she's after moon rocks. That's what I was.
Go kick moon rocks.
I think she's after any kind of UFO information Buzz may have.
Did you ever see the guy who would go up to Buzz Aldrin and say,
Yeah, he hit him.
and then he would say that you never went to the moon, that was fake, and then Buzz Aldrin just knocked him down one time.
He did exactly what I would do if I went to the goddamn moon, and then some punk corners
slug
me,
him?
tells me I didn't go to the moon.
Hit him in the head with a moon
Oh
rock.
yeah, well, guess who is going to the moon right now?
Hit him in the head with a moon rock.
Hey, look, you're floating. Yeah.
Let's find out who this is. That's what I want to know. Who's that? Is that, you know, that looks like it looks like Henry Kissinger's brother. So stuff is happening in Peru. Massive anti-government protests continue in southern Peru. Protesters demand the release of former leftist president Pedro Castillo from jail. This comes after 17 protesters were killed during clashes with the police in the city of Juliaca on Monday. Want to take a look? Here we go. We should have had Craig Pasta. I forgot to call Craig Pasta. He was in Peru. He could have talked about this. I'm sorry. Wow, it's a lot of people. Wow. Peru's coup regime they overthrew the government in Peru. 71% of Peruvians disapprove of the unelected president, Dina Boluarte, says a new poll by the Institute of Peruvian Studies. The same survey shows that 60% consider the anti-coup protests justified. The country's Congress, which carried out the coup against Pedro Castillo, has an even higher rate of rejection, with the IEP stated at the beginning of 2023, the Congress of the Republic is only approved by 9% of respondents, while 16% approve of the president of Congress, Jose Williams. Really? That's pretty low.
Was it just members of Congress?
These figures represent an increase in the disapproval rating of 8% compared to the previous month. Regarding the anti-coup protests and ongoing general strike, 60% consider the mobilization to be justified. Among young people, that rises to 72%. 58% said that there has been repression by the regime against protesters. Peru has experienced mass protests ever since the coup against Pedro Castillo last December. Their demands are resignation of the coup regime, new elections, constitutional assembly, and the release of Pedro Castillo. Currently, he's being detained without charge in Lima. The new regime has killed 50 protesters, almost 50 protesters, mostly in the indigenous Andean regions in the south of the country. Thousands of Peruvians from rural indigenous areas are arriving at the capital city to demand the fall of the coup regime. This is day 13 of the general strike. The Boluarte dictatorship will likely respond with more repression. Wow, that's real protesting when you have a dictator who just overthrew your government. Wow. Protests in Peru following the impeachment of Pedro Castillo show no signs of letting up. In the face of lethal repression, protesters are no longer just demanding elections, but the resignation of President Dina Boluarte and a new constitution. And that's from Jacobin. I have nothing to say about that. I wish I knew more about it, but there you go. We covered it. Peru, protesting. We got to let's get Craig Pasta in here so he could tell us all about it. So you know how the establishment keeps crushing workers in America? They won't even give them a $15 minimum wage. They just crushed their strike at the railroad workers. That's the Democrats did that. So there's no hope for anybody in America. We're turning into Brazil, and unless there's a revolution or some real huge mass action, nothing's going to happen. Well, guess what? They're leading the way in France. So they wanted to raise the retirement age in France, right? From
65, right?
I think it's from 62 to 65.
Yeah.
And guess what they did? All their labor unions got together and said, shut shit down. Now, that'll never happen in America, I don't think, because the leaders of the labor unions in America are in bed with the oligarchy, and they represent them more than the actual workers of the big unions. That's the problem. They're corrupted. The union leaders become part of the establishment. But French unions threatened to cut electricity to MPs, billionaires, and amid a nationwide strike. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, is trying to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. So the 8 biggest unions across the country called a massive wave of strikes and protests today, over 200 actions across the country. This is what we got to do in the United States of America. This is what's going to, it ain't going to be voting for AOC and then she spends 4 years bullshitting you why she keeps voting against you. This is what we got to do. You want to see some of it? Les Parisiens. So there you go. I like when they always have a hot air balloon. It's always nice. Would you like to take a ride in my beautiful balloon?
You know what would be an even more powerful statement? I'm just going to say it. Kyle Kalinski's sex strike.
Wow, there's a lot of people there. I like that. We need this in America. Being an American is such an embarrassment. France considered changing the age of retirement from 62 to 64, and they got 1 million workers organized. Retirement age in the U.S. is 67. I thought it was 65.
Maybe it was at one
When
point.
did they change that?
No, it's 65, right? Ask Surrey. Hey, Surrey, what's retirement age in the United States? United States, the standard retirement age is currently 66, gradually increasing to 67. What?
For anyone born after 1960, full retirement benefits are payable at 67.
What the fuck?
Get in the fucking streets.
Oh my God. And life expectancy is going the other way in the United
workers.
States. For workers.
Not oligarchs.
Oh, so maybe this problem will solve itself.
When the working class stands up against an oppressive ruling class, who stands in their way and brutalizes them? Cops. Cops are not working class.
Well, then why do they lower their pay all the time?
France breaks out in a nationwide strike to protest an attempt to raise the retirement age, and they send the cops are there. They're not. So I'm all for unions. I'm against cop unions. I'm all for unions. I don't think cops should have a union, and they certainly shouldn't have that immunity thing. What is it called? It's
yeah. I mean, as far as like wages and all that stuff, like the more they, because I think you do need a union for that. But the thing that I don't get is the union where you don't have any accountability for anything you do.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem is that they're too big of a, they have too much political influence as a group.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, I don't know how you solve this problem with cops. You have to start over. I don't know if taking away. I don't know. My dad was a union cop. My brother was a union cop. My grandpa was a union cop. And I'm 100% for unions. But there's got to be something we could do about cops. Because policing in America is out of control. And it's crazy. Look what they're doing in France. Look at this. They just start beating people.
They have health care, by the way.
By everybody there has health care. How do you not root for the crowd in these situations? America, individual corporations can now set retirement age to 150. If you die before then, your children will be born in indentured servitude to your corporate overlord. Americans, I probably deserve that. France, we're raising pension age by 2 years. The French. So what in the F happened to the United States people? Well, here's what happened. They got propagandized. Bill Clinton in 1996 passed the Telecommunications Act, which took us from 50 giant media corporations down to 6. And so You never hear, just like Chomsky taught us in Manufacturing Consent, you never get the other side represented in the media to you. You only get the propaganda, and you think that your thoughts are the only one you're thinking those thoughts. You're the only one who thinks it's bullshit they're raising the retirement age. You're the only one who thinks it's bullshit they're sending $100 billion to Ukraine and not to the United States. You're the only one who thinks we should do something about this homeless. You're the only one who thinks we should have Medicare for all. You're the only one. That's what it makes you think.
Yeah, and then our greatest minds like Scott Adams degenerate.
So I would, we're going to need Christian Smalls, who organized the Amazon Union on Staten Island. And what this is called, do you think all those people are just on the left? Do you think all those people are just in the one party? You think that's what that is? No, the power comes when you organize along class lines. And what does that mean? That means when you say that means you have to organize with Trumpers, Trump voters, just like Christian Smalls did on Staten Island. Anything you want to say to this, Kurt?
If you already think that you shouldn't just get health care, it's a good start to like.
They have health care. They have a pension.
Right.
They have dental. They have dental in France.
In grades.
And why do they have it? Because they know how to organize and protest.
Because
I don't want you to protest if it's in the street and I get inconvenienced. That's what Americans have been taught to say.
Well, I got to get to work.
I got to get to work.
I'm not going to have health care. You got to hate your neighbor. You got to always...
Right.
It's always got to be like, well, they can't do that because everybody's an idiot and a piece of garbage. So obviously you got to do... Like the whole training is people are too stupid to have anything.
Yes.
And you believe that about everybody but you. And it's everything. They're too stupid to be able to talk, to be able to read, to do anything. Don't let them do anything.
So guess what? They're coming for, just like George Carlin said, they're coming for your Social Security. They claim that people want to work longer. That's what they claim.
I think not with the threat of being homelessness above their head, though. Maybe there might be a difference between.
So there's a Republican representative. His name is Rick Allen of Georgia. He suggested last week that he would support raising the Social Security retirement age, a policy change that would slash benefits across the board, because people have approached him and said they actually want to work longer.
How many people?
Confronted by an advocate in the Capitol building and asked how the GOP plans to cut Social Security, the congressman responded, "We're not going to cut Social Security."
Oh, what are they doing?
You were going to trim it?
Yeah. What?
But seconds later, Allen contradicted himself by expressing support for raising the retirement age, saying the move would solve every one of these problems, not specifying what the problems are from his perspective. Republican Congressman Rick Allen wants to cut Social Security by raising the retirement age because people want to work more. Do you think Rick Allen has ever talked to a person with a real job?
Yeah, who did he talk to? I'm dying to know.
That's what I want to know too.
You there, the newspaper kiosk.
Retirement.
That's interesting that you asked that question. People come up to me, they actually want to work longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's on the table, you're saying?
Well, if people want to work longer, maybe you need to give them an incentive to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Like a raise?
If people want to work longer, you need to give them an incentive to do it.
Overtime?
Why do you need to give them an incentive to do something that they want to do already? You have to give them an incentive to do something that they're not inclined to do, but you're saying that they already want to do it, so we need to give them an incentive to do it. That's contradictory.
I think it's an incentive to keep wanting.
Okay, here we go.
Solve every one of these problems, by the way.
I know.
And actually, grow wealth at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Just take that right there.
my daddy's a wealth farmer.
It takes that right there. So
It's
you just
not that easy.
that's it. You just take away people's Social Security. That's how you grow wealth.
Oh my goodness! I have to see a Scott Adams chart to understand how this works.
You know what I want? I want a 67-year-old fireman.
Yeah,
Don't you?
yeah. Well, if he wants to do it, and
Don't-
why wouldn't he?
Don't you like it when there's a 67-year-old waitress or a 67-year-old? Allen is a member of the Republican Study Committee, a House GOP panel that released a policy agenda last year calling for gradually raising the full retirement age from 67 to 70, partially privatizing the New Deal program, and mean testing benefits.
Ooh, New Deal advantage.
Matt Brunink of the People's Policy Project, a left-wing think tank, has explained raising the Social Security retirement age is just a straightforward benefit reduction being expressed in an opaque way. Good thing they went to an expert for that. What the fuck? You had to go to a think tank? What the fuck? Social Security does not have one retirement age. It has 96 retirement ages, one for each month between the ages of 62 and 70, Bruning wrote. Now, that's good. What people call the full retirement age is just a placeholder in a formula that determines the benefit level at all 96 retirement ages. Now, that's some good information.
That's some good think tanking.
That's some good think tanking right there. When someone proposes increasing the retirement age to 68, all they are really proposing is to cut monthly Social Security benefits by around 7% at all 96 retirement ages. A proposal to raise the retirement age to 70 is just a proposal to cut monthly benefits by around 23% at all 96 retirement ages. That's very well put, Matt. The Trump to GOP, don't touch Medicare or Social Security in debt ceiling fight. So even Trump's against it.
Well, I hope he never comes back then.
Bernie Sanders said, even a broken clock is right twice a day. While I agree with Trump on virtually nothing, he is right to say under no circumstances should Republicans vote to cut a single penny from Medicare or Social Security. Let's raise taxes on billionaires. Remember, it's funny how he doesn't say millionaires anymore.
No, I know. I think millionaires need to make 10 times less, Bernie, if you want to.
Yeah, buddy. Tell that to your friend Joe frickin' Biden. As you well know, he's always been keen to cut and privatize Social Security and Medicare.
Oh,
Paul Ryan was correct. When he did the tax code, what's the first thing he decided we had to go after? Social Security and Medicare. Now, we need to do something about Social Security and Medicare. That's the only way you can find room to pay for it. I don't.
really? The only way?
I don't. He's a maniac. So there you go. GOP looking to cut. Now I think because Joe Biden wants to cut it too, and the people who fund the Democrats want to cut it. So I think this is part of the play. They're like, hey, we have the Republicans be the evil guys, and then the Democrats come in and they cut it just a little less.
Yeah, right.
Right, and we get to keep this thing going back and forth.
That's a standard corporate deal. You push things. There's outcry from the consumer. You walk it back up, but it's always a little bit moving over the line.
That's right.
Yeah.
So here's how you're getting screwed, even when you get something nice. Here's how the government screws you. You know Medicare Advantage, right? You always hear Medicare Advantage. Well, it's neither Medicare nor an Advantage. I got this from Common Dreams, which I encourage everybody to make a donation to them. I did. So this guy, you've heard of this guy. What is his name? Where's his name?
Wendell Potter?
Wendell Potter. That's his name. So he used to work for Cigna,
Okay.
right? Which sounds a lot like smegma.
Yeah.
And following a 20-year career as a corporate insurance executive, Wendell Potter left his position as head of communications for Cigna in 2008 to advocate for comprehensive health care reform. So I wonder what happened.
I'll tell you what happened. He spent his youth destroying his retirement. He's like, whoa, what am I doing? I'm old now. I need Medicare.
I wonder if he had a dream or a vision, or I wonder what
Maybe
happened.
it'll say.
Right now, well-funded lobbyists from big health insurance companies are leading a campaign on Capitol Hill to get members of Congress and senators in both parties to sign onto a letter designed to put them on the record expressing strong support for the scam that is Medicare Advantage. But here is the truth. Medicare Advantage is neither Medicare nor an advantage. And I should know, I'm the former healthcare executive who helped develop public relations and marketing schemes to sell these private insurance plans. Medicare Advantage is a scheme by private insurance companies to prey on seniors and profit off the Medicare brand, all in the name of padding their corporate profits and shareholder returns. It's actually just private insurance that uses the trusted Medicare name to trick seniors and people with disabilities into enrolling, then profits by denying coverage for necessary medical care, just like always.
Oh, so it's their advantage. The
Yes,
company. Okay.
that's right. For example, unlike real Medicare, doctors often must get approval from the insurer in advantage before treating their Medicare Advantage patients. See, that's the beauty of Medicare. It's your doctor who decides. Additionally, these private plans often have inadequate networks of doctors, hospitals, and other essential facilities. This stands in stark contrast to actual Medicare, where nearly all doctors and hospitals are available to patients without a referral. It gets worse. In Medicare Advantage plans, if a patient knowingly or inadvertently sees a doctor or goes to a hospital out of network, they could be on the hook for thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket costs. And these private plans, networks, they typically cover only the patient's home area, meaning doctors and hospitals, including centers of excellence, outside of a patient's home area are considered out of network. Adding insult to injury, people enrolled in Medicare Advantage, they cannot buy supplemental coverage to help cover out-of-pocket expenses, unlike traditional Medicare enrollees. This is unbelievable.
How?
This means they could have to pay as much as $7,500 out-of-pocket costs
What
a
do
year.
they tell you the advantage
What do they tell you the advantage is?
Yeah, because I don't like.
The New York Times recently reported that 8 of the 10 largest, 10 biggest Medicare Advantage insurers have submitted inflated bills according to the federal audits. No shit. Wow. And 4 out of 5 largest players, United Health, Humana, Elevance, and Kaiser, have faced federal lawsuits alleging that efforts to overdiagnose their customers crossed the line into fraud. Health insurance companies only make money 2 ways: fraud and denying you health care. They are not a health provider, they are parasites. During my I could win this argument with libertarians any day, meaning I could convince libertarians. That's what I mean. Not that I could convince a third party between me. I could convince libertarians.
I tell them they need to get with Libertarian Advantage.
During my 2 decades in the industry, I was part of an annual collaborative effort to persuade law. So this is how you lobby. You want to know how they lobbied? We knew that having congressional support for Medicare Advantage was essential to ensuring ever-growing profits at the expense of seniors and taxpayers. We even organized what we insiders derisively called granny fly-ins. They would bring senior citizens enrolled in our Medicare replacement plans to Washington, D.C., equip them with talking points, and then they had them fan out across Capitol Hill. I regret my participation in those efforts. Over the 20 years since Congress passed the Medicare Modernization Act, the Medicare Advantage program has become an enormous cash cow for insurers, in large part because of the way they have rigged the risk scoring system to maximize their profits. At Kaiser Health News reported last month, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services estimated a net overpayments to Medicare Advantage plans by unconfirmed medical diagnosis at $11.4 billion just for 2022. How much money is $11.4 billion? Do you know how much money, this is my perfect example, the recording industry in the United States generates a year? That's in every recorded piece of music that's ever recorded in the United States every year only makes $12 billion a year. So they made almost that amount just off of seniors.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a month and a half of Ukraine.
That was just for 1 year. Imagine the cumulative historical total that would be.
Vaccine money?
It's close. The Medicare and Medicaid programs have become so lucrative and profitable for insurers that United Health Group, the nation's largest health insurer and the biggest in terms of Medicare Advantage enrollment, got 72% of its health plan revenues in 2021 from taxpayers and seniors.
Wow.
Wow. In fact, all of United Health's enrollment growth since 2012 has been in government programs. Enrollment in the company's employers and individual health plans shrank. Much of the $81 billion in United Health collected in revenues in the third quarter of last year was subsidized by American tax dollars. Instead of joining with the corporate lobbyists and extolling the benefits of Medicare Advantage while obscuring the program's numerous problems, and in the process helping big insurance make massive profits, Congress should work to lower the costs of health care. Medicare Advantage is a money-making scam.
Okay, well, before I listen to him, I want to hear from what Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks about this.
I would like to hear what Sam Harris has to
I'd
say.
like to hear Sam.
I mean, just imagine if a couple of things were different. Imagine if everybody had health care, but still went bankrupt and died anyways. You wouldn't have anybody screaming about Medicare. Just change those two things. If everybody had Medicare and then everyone died anyway, just change those two things.
Okay, now back to the meditation. Oh.
This is a woman named Chrystia Freeland. And she was, now this is from Davos? Where did we get this? It's from, she's speaking at the WEF.
Oh, yeah.
World Economic Forum I like this. World Economic Forum hemorrhoid Chrystia Freeland. Hey, by the way, Chrystia. First of all, great name. Sounds like a bacterial infection. Do you have Chrystia?
I have cystic Chrystia.
Do you have cystic Chrystia? Have you tried Lotrimin? How about some Gyne-Lotrimin? Have you tried Chrystia for Lotrimin? So here, listen to this. By the way, she's the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this should be. I already watched it, but it really upsets me.
And this is what he said when I talked to him about what's going on in the American middle class. We demand a higher paycheck than the rest of the world. So if you're going to demand 10 times the paycheck, you need to deliver 10 times the value. It sounds harsh, but maybe people in the middle class need to decide to take a pay cut. Again, not untrue if you're looking at the dynamics of the global economy, but politically and socially, a very difficult thing.
She said not untrue?
Yeah, not as difficult as dipping into the top part of the.
So she's saying
it's a harsh
because
truth.
now neoliberalism, capitalism has gone to every part of the globe and exploited every poor people. Even the poor people are now getting together to raise their own wages, and so now what they want to do is lower everybody's wages at once.
Right. If you got to remain competitive,
so not raise their wages,
right?
Obviously, because that could cost the top 1%, maybe 2% of their 90% of the world's wealth. And that's basically communism, Kurt.
Yeah. If you think globally.
Actually, I take it back. The name Chrystia sounds like a prescription drug that helps numb feelings about wealth inequality. What about the people who get paid 160 times more than the rest of the world? What about them? The middle class is making too much money, she's saying. But what about the 160 fucking people who run everything? There's two people who have more wealth than like 50% of the world.
Yeah.
What value do they add exactly, Chrystia, besides giving their kids great names like Chrystia? By the way, warning, a small percentage of patients treated with Chrystia may encounter minor side effects, such as swab face, constant queefing, shit livery, elevated tweet pressure, authoritinitis, legible Epstein flight listings, and Larry Summers balls. If you experience one or more of these symptoms, immediately ask for more censorship.
I think I suffer from shit lib.
Let me play that again.
And this is what he said when I talked to him about what's going on in the American middle class. We demand a higher paycheck than the rest of the world. So if you're going to demand 10 times the paycheck, you need to deliver 10 times the value.
And then, by the way, I don't know if that's true. If the American middle class demands 10 times the paycheck, but
Of the
I know
poorest countries.
That's right. But I know that we don't get health care in America. We all have to pay for that out of our pocket,
Right.
and that's we pay double that
We
the
don't
rest.
get 10 times the value.
That's right, and
Yeah.
for the we pay twice as much for healthcare as the rest of the world, and get
Yeah.
worse healthcare for it. So that costs a lot. And plus, we let foreign investments in our country. That's why real estate in Los Angeles and New York is 10 times what it should be, because Chinese billionaires buy up all the property and it sits empty and it artificially raises prices. And why is that? That's because local developers control city councils.
It's called adding value, Jimmy.
Well, what does she think about how much the CEOs have skyrocketed?
That's exactly what I said.
Well, again-
This is 1,460% since 1978.
Wow, I was way off of my 160
That's-
times.
That's Economic
That was
Policy
way off.
Institute, by the way.
And this is what he said when I talked to him about what's going on in the
Abu.
American middle class. We demand a higher paycheck than the rest of the world. So if you're going to demand 10 times the paycheck, you need to deliver 10 times the value. It sounds harsh, but maybe people in the middle class need to decide to take a pay cut.
Who said this to her?
I don't know who that is she's talking about. I'm going to guess Justin Trudeau.
I guess, yeah.
Again, not untrue. If you're
Again, not untrue. Not untrue that the middle class has to take a pay cut.
Again, I don't know
Again.
why the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada is allowed to speak anyway.
Again,
I shouldn't know her name.
she's going to use international economics as a weapon.
No, that's New Zealand.
that's New
It was-
Zealand.
Wait, is it Christia or Chistia?
Is it Chistia?
Look at that.
I've always heard it pronounced Kistia. Maybe it's Kistia.
Oh, did somebody just misspell?
What do they say in the chat? How to
I'll bet
pronounce?
it's Chistia.
Get one of those maple leafs. Ask them.
Mm-hmm.
My God. No, it's not a medicine. That is-
Again. But she says again, not. Hey, let's hear what she says.
again, not untrue.
Not untrue. The middle class does have to take a pay cut, but
If you're looking at the dynamics of the global economy, but politically and socially, a very difficult.
it's gonna be tough for us to impose this on most of the people.
Yeah, we only vote in
That's
the
what she
local
means.
thing, not the
Yeah.
global economy. I don't know if you know this. It's kind of weird to have everybody under this.
The gap between productivity and typical workers' compensation has increased dramatically since 1979. The gap. So what I like to say is workers haven't had a raise since 1980, because I think I heard Michael Parente say that once about how wages haven't caught up. So usually before 1980, which is when Ronald Reagan got it, that when productivity went up, wages went up.
Mhm.
So the people who generated the profits got to share in the greater profits.
Right.
That's not anymore. See where it stopped?
Yeah. The wage thigh gap happened, and now they're not
See where-
rubbing together and chafing like they were.
So there it is. Right. So I was right. 1980. So it used to be very closely correlated when production went
Oh,
up.
Is that when
so
we started shipping it out to other places where
Yes,
they don't get paid?
that is right.
Oh.
So they put a tax incentive for corporations to offshore American jobs. Not only did you
Oh.
get to ruin Americans cut the legs off from underneath labor in America and ship good paying jobs, turn them into shitty paying jobs, and then ship them to China. But you also got a tax break to do so.
It's sunrise in America.
You can't. Yeah, that was what Ronald Reagan called sunrise in America. And then right up until see that, and then boom. So workers kept making more productivity, but they didn't.
Wow. Make America gape again.
Right. And when people tell you we don't need unions, that's a proof you do.
Well, that line right there, who I choose to ally with, we don't need them.
That's right.
The important people that will take 10 times more, thank you.
All this tells me is if you pay them less, they're going to work harder. Am I right? Am I right? That's day one of class at Prager University.
You went to PragerU?
PragerU online? Sure. Dave Rubin got me a discount.
You graduate, they give you a cigar. So you see other interviews where they got cigars, like a couple of bloated plutocrats.
Anyway, here we go. Wages for the top 1% skyrocketed 160% since 1979, while the share of wages for the bottom 90% shrunk. Well, that just means it's working. The top 1% of Americans have taken $50 trillion from the bottom 90%, and that's made the U.S. less secure. Really? That's weird. I thought we just funded entire new departments of police.
Yeah.
Plus, we're fighting Russia over there, so we don't have to fight them over here. What's not secure?
Yeah, it sounds like we got it tied right up.
How can we be? We're super secure. Hey, the top 1% officially have more money than the whole middle class. But the middle class need to take a pay cut, Kurt. You know that.
Yeah.
Wait, is that him? Is he the 1%?
That's the guy.
The top 1% is that guy? And he has more money than the bottom 90? If that's true, shouldn't he have a better haircut?
Yeah, it looks like he works there and snuck onto the croquet course. And he looks like he's posing as a rich guy to impress these chicks.
That's exactly what he looks like. Central Casting sent me a rich douchebag looking guy.
Yeah, and Rodney Dangerfield comes in at some point.
Maybe that was a guy. He was an adjunct professor at Trump University. That's who that guy was. Congress approved $113 billion of aid to Ukraine.
Boy, I'd like to see a Ukraine productivity and money
Yes.
scale, huh?
The CARES Act sent you a $1,200 check, but gave millionaires and billionaires far more. What? You don't want to reward success?
It's why we gave Zelensky an Oscar.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well, I think Chlamydia Freeland is right when she says that the middle class, it is true, they do need to take a pay cut, right? But I don't know if they might revolt.
I'd like to know who Vice Minister Cystic Fibrosis was speaking to about this. Was it Larry Summers Balls?
Was it Larry Summers Balls? Okay.
It sounds like something Larry Summer would say.
I got bad news if you are an American, and because the petrodollar is going away, which means that the United States dollar, which is the reserve currency of the world, is probably going to go away. What does that mean? That means our bad news for our economy, like really bad news, and they're doing it on purpose. Like, what if you would think the president of the United States would want to keep the petrodollar going, but they're doing everything to break up that relationship. What is the petrodollar? The petrodollar is Saudi Arabia is the biggest exporter of oil in the world. So we made a deal with them back in the 70s that said, you can use our military anywhere you want in the world, but what we'll charge you for that is you have to make sure whenever someone buys oil from you, they have to buy it in U.S. dollars. So that means anybody who bought Italy, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Africa, Australia, no matter Iceland, if they bought oil from Saudi Arabia, they had to first convert their currency into U.S. dollars, which meant that everybody around the world used the United States dollar as the reserve currency. So everybody trades with dollars. So that keeps our...
Plus, they buy other stuff because while you got the U.S. dollars,
that's
you
right.
might as well get all your stuff.
So they do. That's what I'm saying. They use it for everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the international trade currency.
Yeah.
It's it's the world reserve. So that's going to go away because what we're doing in Ukraine and other places and trying to force an economic hurt on Russia and China is forcing places like Saudi Arabia to abandon the petrodollar idea, which will hurt us a lot. Saudi prince snubbed Biden's request to discuss the oil crisis brought about by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, this is from March 9th of 2022. And then this is what happened. They're getting along. And then this happened. Saudi invites China's President Xi as relations with Washington remain soured. What? Hey, BRICS challenges the U.S. dollar dominance. Saudi considers selling oil in other currencies, new multipolar economic order. So this is the kind of crazy stuff people thought Trump would do. And of course, it's being done by Joe Biden and the Wall Street fossil fuel puppets. So Trump didn't do this. Trump didn't wreck everything for the United States. It's Joe Biden and the Democrats that are doing this, and the deep state. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it right out in the open, and no one seems to care. By the way, this photo explains more about the Ukraine war than 1 million Ukraine flag tweets combined. Right? So there's the president of Brazil, president of Russia, president of China. I don't know who this is. Let's see. I don't know who that is either. But those, so
South Africa?
it's called BRICS. The international economic system had been dominated for decades by the United States. But this financial architecture is rapidly fracturing with the creation of new institutions in the global south. The BRICS bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa is working to develop a fairer system of monetary exchange to challenge the dominance of the U.S. dollar. Saudi Arabia publicly confirmed that it is considering selling its oil in other currencies. China's President Xi Jinping said Beijing will buy energy from the Persian Gulf states in its own currency, the renminbi.
Renminbi?
You know what? I looked it up 4 times today on how to say it. I thought I memorized it, and I didn't.
I thought they had the won or the yuan.
No, that is so. Renminbi, whatever that word is, that's what they're called. A yuan is like a denomination of their money.
Oh,
right.
It's called renminbi.
That's their monetary. That's their money is called that, and then the yuan, which is spelled Y-U-A-N, that's like a denomination of their money, right? So that's like a pound,
Okay.
right? Prominent economist Zoltan Pozsar of the Swiss investment bank Credit Suisse has observed that the unipolar era of U.S. hegemony is quickly being replaced with a new multipolar order of one world, two systems. China is proactively writing a fresh set of rules and creating a new type of globalization, Posner wrote, describing how this transition threatens the exorbitant privilege that the dollar holds as the international reserve currency. South Africa's foreign minister, Naledi Pandor, told Russia's state media outlet Sputnik that the BRICS bloc is working to develop a fairer system of monetary exchange to weaken the dominance of the dollar. Pandor's comments were ignored by Western media outlets, but widely reported in the Indian press. Of course, nobody talks about this in the corporate media because they don't want you to talk about it, because they don't want you to know what the petrodollar is, because they don't want you sniffing it out, that's why we're doing warmongering in Yemen and helping commit a genocide and all the other stuff we're doing.
They better not threaten our exorbitant privilege.
They better not. The systems currently in place tend to privilege very wealthy countries and tend to be really a challenge for countries such as ourselves, which have to make payments in dollars, which cost much more in terms of our various currencies, Pandor continued. So I do think a fairer system has to be developed, and it's something we're discussing with the BRICS ministers and the economic sectors discussed. The South African foreign minister also criticized the United States' imposition of unilateral sanctions, which are illegal under international law. She told Sputnik, "We always have a problem with unilateral sanctions and their impact on many countries that fall outside a particular conflict. So we have indicated to our friends in the United States that we really want them to relook at this imposition of unilateral sanctions, which is often not very helpful as a strategy in resolving problems." The world's largest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, has publicly acknowledged that it is considering selling its crude in other currencies, not just the U.S. dollar. That is the end of it for the United States. That's going to be the end of our 1,000 military bases across the world. We're going to go bankrupt. as a country.
Not if we
I mean,
go to war.
We already kind of are, but we will actually have to. We don't have to feel the repercussions of that now because of the petrodollar. But when that goes away, we are going to feel it. Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al Jadaan told Bloomberg TV there are no issues with discussing how we settle our trade arrangements, whether it is in the U.S. dollar, whether it is in the euro, whether it's in the Saudi riyal. In 1974, this is it. Saudi Arabia agreed to sell its crude at the dollar, blah, 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 blah. The petrodollar system helped undergird the status of the greenback as the global reserve currency after U.S. President Richard Nixon extended the convertibility of the dollar to gold in 1971. But the petrodollar now has direct challengers. The Wall Street Journal reported in March 2022 that Saudi Arabia was in active talks with Beijing to produce. We already said this. Blah, 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 blah. China is already Saudi Arabia's top trading partner, and Beijing, Riyadh, and the GCC pledged to deepen their multilateral trade. These historic developments in the BRICS and Saudi Arabia are part of an international shift to a multipolar. Yeah, so we know all this. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. We got all this. We did it. We already did it. How many times do you want me to fucking say this?
Renminbi.
So there it is. Bloomberg is reporting it. The power of BRICS will go ahead with the joint. South Africa will go ahead with the joint naval exercises, including Russia and China. Operation Mosey Smoke will take place from February 17th to the 26th. South Africa is set to welcome Russian warships despite heavy criticism. Joe Biden is fucking up the international United States order. The ambassador of South Africa is Russia Mazvukil Markuta said that who the fuck knows that about 13 countries are interested in joining the BRICS. Makuta added that 6 countries have already submitted formal applications for membership. It's over, and Joe Biden is driving America off the cliff. So this was the stuff you thought Trump was going to do. Joe Biden's doing it. They're wrecking your country. They're spending $100 billion. I said this on stage at the Flappers the other night. I said, if they're sending $100 billion to another country, it's because we care about them. I just don't understand why we don't send $100 billion to the United States.
Well, I think you just answered your question.
And the people and the crowd went wild. So regular people are catching on. Not just Jimmy Dore Show viewers, regular people.
Not just Dilbert and the...
Wow. Oh, one of my fake fact checkers. You know how the show gets fake fact checked by people funded by Bill Gates and what have you? Mm. One of them was at that show and came up to me and took a picture and then told me who they were. Hey, I have the fact checked you on the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you piece of shit. And I gave you a picture before I knew who the fuck you were. Then I told him, he's like, hey, I thought we were going to be friends. And I'm like, you're a piece of shit. Get the fuck away from me. Then my comedian friend, Michael Gelbart, walked up. He goes, who's this? I go, this is a piece of shit, Michael. Don't pay any attention to him. So let's talk about Klaus Schwab. He's the head of the WEF. And this guy tweets out and says, like father, like son. Klaus Schwab's father was a Nazi. And Klaus seems to follow in his footsteps. Hey, in defense of Klaus, aren't the dads of most old, bald, ugly German oligarchs Nazis?
Yeah, like all of them. Some of the hot ones too.
Right? You can't get what? That's like that's like saying that is
even the Germans that really held up that are oligarchs, probably some Nazi connections.
Probably yeah. So until recently, friends called me a conspiracy theorist because I claimed that this pandemic was the stirrup holder for a great reset. And they call it a plandemic. Do you know what that means? That means they planned it.
Which part of it? Which part or parts of the plan?
I think that because this theory says that because of that they had that Project 201 or whatever, or Event 201.
Yeah, it's like, did they die of COVID or with COVID? Did they plan for a demic or did they plan the whole demic? I guess is the nuance.
So anyway, let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Thanks also to the leadership of China in terms of fighting the pandemic.
Oh, yeah, because things really worked out for for China. China's big idea. Their zero COVID policy really worked out.
Thanks for giving us a place to go. Hey, we're at least not like that.
Yes.
In terms of reinvigorating its economy, we have now a window of opportunity to create this global reset which we all need.
They just say it out loud.
You'll need a shower, then
Pay
Come
no
on.
attention to the showers.
get in the shower.
Pay no attention to the. Come on.
We all need.
Everybody change your clothes.
Oh
We
my-
have fresh clothes. So, there we go.
This global reset is necessary.
So now you were considered a maniac if you said they were trying to do a global
Do
reset.
you know how bad this? Like his father believed in, I guess you would call a Hebrew reset, and now he's taking it a step further to a global reset.
Mm.
Now I include everyone.
Now
in
everyone.
camps.
Yeah. Everyone should have the mark of the beast.
Because we have seen that our policies which we pursued before the coronavirus struck us, that those policies do not create the necessary inclusion of society necessary for harmonious societal development.
Just say law and
And they
order.
do not create the sustainability of what we are doing. Just think of the global warming, how fast it is developing in the opposite, into the negative direction. So,
What?
What?
Okay, I'm
don't-
thinking about it.
It's I get. I get English is his second language, but that didn't make any sense. Climate change. Look how
It's
fast
going
it's
in the opposite of the negative.
direction.
Think. Oh my!
I don't know what
goodness.
that means.
we have a great opportunity at this moment, like we had after World War II, to have in some way a new beginning
With
in our
Nazi
global
science?
corporate.
An age of rocket ships and
The CIA is currently importing Nazi scientists and shipping them to Brazil to work with NASA
oh my
on
god.
developing new mRNA technology.
We are even now developing new mandatory injections.
in globalization, in managing our global affairs. I hope that we will not miss this opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
And God, we may even bring back the tiny mustache. The mustache of harmony.
Boy, Hitler really wrecked the tiny mustache.
This guy's bringing it. Look, you could say Hitler wrecked German world domination, but it's making a big comeback.
He really wrecked that little mustache.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's gone with the little mustache since Hitler.
A few people, but it was odd when they,
I didn't-
Michael
who?
Jordan was famously,
He did that?
he tried to put a little bit of a goatee under it, but
Did he?
yeah, he did a Hanes commercial in it. Norm Macdonald used to have a whole joke about it on when
No
he was on SNL.
kidding.
He goes, a Hitler mustache. Norm Macdonald went hard on it.
Oh, man. Hey, I saw the documentary last night. We got to talk about it.
Okay.
The latter is nothing but the total enslavement of the global population. And by saying enslavement, I mean total control over their online behavior, total control over their digital money, implementation of social credit system. So Schwab's WF is pushing for a social credit system involving universal basic income and digital identity. So, by the way, you know what that video needed? It needed like a mini Schwab in that video. You know, like
oh, like me,
like on Austin Powers.
like a little Schwab.
Yeah, like a little
He
Schwab.
just doesn't talk, but pantomimes
Yeah.
the moves. Yeah.
So you call it enslavement. I call it harmonious equity. I don't want my social credit score to go down. Here's another. Klaus has also been spreading medical misinformation and gaslighting those who oppose gene therapy, leading to the establishment of the Ministry of Truth. the WHO, the UN, and other globalist organizations, social media, and fact checkers. So let's see what he means by this.
Waves of lockdowns and the stresses of finding work or returning to workplaces have even amplified the existential and often silent mental health crisis. So, what should you do? Use the millennials and the Generation Z. What should you do differently?
The Generation Z. You know, they say Z instead of Z.
Immediately, you are calling for the international community to safeguard vaccine equity, to respond to COVID-19 and prevent future health crises. Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
Okay, did no one think to say, hey, Klaus, maybe don't shake your fist like a mad scientist when you're telling nobody will be safe unless you're vaccinated?
Yeah, like maybe the Dr. Doom hands. Oh, you got Doom hands again. Klaus Doom hands. You're doing your Doom hand.
Klaus, just speak normal. Don't get
Nobody will.
Nobody will be safe.
It really is like Doctor Strangelove when he had to keep his hand down.
Yes.
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
Nobody will be safe.
Oh my God. That's going to be a great thing to see somebody clip out and put at the end of other things.
Yes.
Nobody
will be safe. And where's that mini me Schwab I ordered, by the way? Can you imagine how adorable a mini Schwab would look shaking his fist next to the normal Schwab? It would be like, oh.
Can somebody make that a little mini Schwab going like this?
Okay, here's one more. Dr. Simon says, this development is scary and nobody will be able to claim, wir haben es nicht gewusst. We did not know, because Klaus Schwab speaks about his objectives as openly as Hitler did in his book Mein Kampf, Resist. By the way, do you know what they call a virgin in Germany?
No.
A guten Titan! And I love that joke.
Hans Guten Titan?
Klaus Schwab's father was a man named Eugene Schwab. He worked for
Is that short for eugenics?
He worked for a model Nazi company called Exterwies and managed the company's Ravensburg factory.
Escher Weiss.
Weren't all the factories Nazi factories, though? I mean, that's kind of...
Yeah.
It's like you can't...
Hey, you don't hold it against Coco Chanel. Come on.
Come on.
Hey.
If you don't hold it against Hugo Boss.
Come on. We don't hold it against Balenciaga.
Schwab's Nazi factory made large turbines for the secret Nazi heavy water-based atomic bomb project.
Oh, my God. Now they're going to fat shame water? Water's healthy at any weight, sir. A lot of Ukraine shaming and fat shaming.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm in all seriousness. This is scary.
How about beautiful water?
How about water that has period?
How about plus water?
Yeah.
You don't like big water?
Plus sized water? I love plus sized water. Get the bottle, it's kind of fat in the middle, it's kind of, I'm not fat.
It makes bigger explosions because it's so heavy.
But what about this research? There is a cabal of people that do run the world.
There's no new ideas here. It's all the same idea over and over again, which is like perpetual war. I get more, you get less.
That's right.
And shut up.
Shut up. We're going to track you forever. We can cut off your funds if you get too loud. We're going to take away your ability to travel or pay your bills or buy gas. Yeah. Okay.
And you've never been happier.
We should have a serious discussion about exactly what they mean about the Great Reset. But what they do mean about the Great Reset I think this guy, total control over your online behavior, total control over their digital money. So if we have a cashless society, then this establishment oligarchs can take away your money at any moment. And then you can't travel, you can't pay your bills, you can't hire a lawyer.
And we want to thank China for leading the way. Thank you. Danke, China, for leadership.
It's not good. The big mistake everybody made during COVID was instead of listening to independent researchers and doctors, we listened to mainstream media doctors and pundits who were brought to you by Pfizer. That was the big mistake. And people tell me people literally say, why don't you bring more mainstream doctors on your show? People think that's smart to say that. I'm not kidding. Hey, why don't you bring out some people from Raytheon and tell you what's happening in Ukraine?
What kind of great insurance you have? You see a mainstream doctor?
I would, but I don't have insurance.
I have to go to an indie doctor.
Yeah, I can't get him.
I call into Therapy Gecko on you ever see that?
This is from Elon Musk. He came out, big deal. Now, what happens when Pfizer pulls their advertising from Twitter? Well, the billionaire who owns Twitter is going to start telling the truth about stuff. And so he said this: I had major side effects from my second booster shot. Felt like I was dying for several days. Hopefully no permanent damage, but I don't know.
When was his booster?
I don't know.
It was before or after Pfizer took their
money out?
Yeah, because, okay, did this happen to him a while back? And he was like, well, now that you took your money out, I'm going to talk about what happened to me. Or did he recently get a booster and this happened to him after they took their money out? Because if this happened before they took their money out, and he just fuck you, dude.
Yeah. Well, here he says, and my cousin, who was young and in peak health, had a serious case of myocarditis, had to go to the hospital.
Not no more, he ain't.
So it's probably benign.
Look, Scott Adams said he was wrong. What else do you want? Your cousin won, and Scott Adams lost.
So this is a big deal, right? So anyway, the COVID tide has turned, especially on Twitter, and Twitter is where all the news journalists go, or the people who do news in America. So there he is again. And my cousins, this guy said, I got the J&J and thankfully nothing after that. He says, I had OG's COVID-19. What is that? What's OG?
The original strain.
Oh, is that what he had? Oh, he had the original strain.
Not Delta, the original one.
Oh, no kidding. Before vaccines came out, and it was basically a mild cold.
Oh my God, Elon.
Jesus
Jesus Christ.
It's going to make people not afraid of it enough. Elon.
Well, it sounds like he got suckered in his mind. Obviously, he didn't because it was incredibly effective. And
then he had the J&J vaccine with no. If you already had it, why would you?
Because they told all the people that are part of society.
Yeah.
They told them to get it, and they all got it like it was their duty. Remember Bill Maher?
Yes, he said, I took one for the team.
Yeah, they all were taking one for the team.
You're going to take an experimental medical treatment for someone else?
We're all doing this. You can't even get on a lot in Hollywood without doing this.
That is true. Then he had the J&J vaccine. No bad side effects except his arm hurt badly. First mRNA booster was okay, but the second one crushed me. So this is news. This is big news. I'm just reporting this as news. Of course, as we tell you here, I don't know what he's talking about because the vaccine is safe and effective, Kurt. You know that. It's going to keep it's going to keep you
even the J&J one that got recalled.
That's right. It's fantastic.
Safe and effective.
Safe and effective. I don't know why they recalled
it.
What?
Because you're panic.
That was my favorite one. I like that it was J&J.
Yeah.
But it'll keep you from, if you get that vaccine, it'll keep you from going in the hospital, getting sick or dying, and it slows the spread and contraction. My heart swells with pride over the vaccines. I get short of breath from the excitement of the new booster.
Yeah. Well, I hope Elon's heart isn't 2 sizes too small, as they say in Whoville.
So here's another one. This guy said, that's actually crazy. What's sad is that you'd be deplatformed or fact-checked on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube for sharing that because it's not in line with the WHO or independent fact-checkers. And then Scott Adams, our favorite guy, he comes back in and says, no one gets deplatformed for saying something happened to their cousin. Boy, Scott, what do you... People get deplatformed for saying the truth
I have a
about
question.
COVID. Of course they would get deplatformed
Scott,
for that.
For a guy that's on Twitter this much, how did you not encounter the Twitter files?
How did you not encounter that?
It was all Twitter. I didn't really look into them that hard.
Me neither.
Because I don't give a shit about Twitter. And you're not aware that in fact, you could have a 24-like thing and there's direct requests from several branches of government.
And political parties.
Does everything have to be drawn on a chart behind Scott Adams' pointy head?
There was the guy, yeah.
Look at his stupid brain. Like, I've never seen a guy have all the accoutrements of being smart.
He is. He has a brain. It's a brain.
Yeah. You didn't notice that? I'm like, wow. Who is that even with that giant brain? Oh my God. You see, Scott, the IQ is the brain's penis size. And
here's my favorite. So this guy tweets out the Rasmussen reports. They reported that 68% of 260 million adults, or 177 million adults, indicate they received a COVID-19 vax, and 7% of those reported major side effects. That translates to 177 or 0.07 in approximately 12 million people. I don't know what that is. The CDC says major side effects are rare. How many people does the CDC estimate had major side effects? How are the words rare and common defined for side effects?
That's a good question.
So he retweets it and said, how do we interpret this? I'm going to interpret it as not good.
Scott, you have a brain in your profile.
Put it in your brain and interpret it. What are you doing?
What is this wrinkly thing in the picture on my profile? Anyone?
A brain.
Wow.
Here's a guy who spent 4 years in a foxhole in Da Nang. We thought it'd be funny if we replaced everybody in his apartment complex with Viet Cong. Now let's watch the fun as he goes to pay his rent. So this is the guy who does that Dilbert cartoon. Everybody loves Dilbert.
Yeah, anybody who's taken a dump and somebody had a collection of his thumb through a Dilbert.
So he was very pro. So he's very much like me, like I am in my shadow. He's very smug all the time. He's very condescending all the time. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room all the time. And so all the things that I deny about myself and I put in my unconscious, he has it right on the surface. Mm-hmm. So good for him.
Where does he live? Does he live in New York, you think? Or is he in
I think he lives most of the time halfway up his ass. But here we go. But so here he is. He called people who question the COVID narrative anti-vaxxers, which is a very lazy thing to do. But he does it. And so here he is. And when I first saw this, I thought, like, good. He is admitting he was wrong. And by the way, I'm not endorsing any medical facts he says in this video.
Is he admitting he's wrong? I don't know.
Well, let's watch.
Yeah.
So let's watch.
Having said as clearly as possible that the anti-vax people seem to be the winners, I want you to hear that clearly. The anti-vax people appear to be the winners.
Okay. Who knew? So the anti-vaxxers are the winners, is what he's saying. First of all, most of the anti-vaxxers are not anti-vax.
Right.
That was just an insult for people who got injured and they didn't keep their mouths shut. That's what that was.
Yeah, well, and you won.
And
and Scott's big enough to admit it.
And by the way, it's
why is he making this stupid?
Oh my God!
Look at him.
And you won.
Yeah. Are you happy? Scott's telling you won. I'll let him say it clearly. Look at behind him. He drew a chart.
He was He's doing like game theory, right? Is that what that is?
That's how I take it. That's like game theory. Run amok.
Who knew Scott Adams had such a beautiful mind starring Russell Crowe as Dilbert?
Did anybody see a beautiful mind?
So, secondly, it's not a win, Scott. If Scott wanted to say it correctly, he could say people who thought there might be an issue with the entire narrative around COVID were right. Not anti-vaxxers were right. People who were skeptical of the official establishment narrative around COVID, and for good reason. But he just calls them, I wish he would address this using Dilbert strips. Right? I'm sorry, Scott. Why don't you write a Dilbert where Dilbert files a Freedom of Information request for the vax data? How about that? And then, boy, imagine his chagrin.
Yeah.
When they tell him it's going to be 75 years.
Dilbert. His boss with the triangle hair comes out and tells him.
So let's listen to what he says.
The anti-vaxxers clearly are the winners at this point, and I think it'll probably stay that way. And I don't want to put any shade on that whatsoever. They came out the best.
Believe me, there's a lot of shade coming.
They came out the best?
Believe me. Right? I know. No, it's
Are you telling me Albert Bourla is an anti-vaxxer?
So believe me, I was encouraged when I heard him say that, but believe me, he's going to throw shade. And I'll show you that in a second. Here we go.
The winning position. The unvaccinated have a current advantage because they feel better. The thing they're not worrying about is what I have to worry about, which is, I wonder if that vaccination 5 years from now, because really the anti-vaxxers, I think, were really just distrustful of big companies and big government. That's never wrong. It's never wrong to distrust government. It's never wrong to distrust big companies. Right?
What? Except
so
when
if
I'm
you
scared?
just took the position, let's just distrust everything the government did, well, you won.
So it's never wrong to do that. You said it was.
You see, game theory, this is why I said that, because he's like, and you want, like, it's not a game,
Right.
stupid.
It wasn't right. It's not a game, and it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about why can't we have a normal debate about science, like science is supposed to work? Why do we have to be censoring people who have different conclusions and who have different data?
Because Dilbert's that big of a pussy, and you won. You have to kick him when he's down.
Here we go.
You won. You won completely.
I'll get you next time.
I did not end up in the right place. Agree? You would all agree with that, right? I did not end up in the right place. The right place would be natural immunity, no vaccination. You should take victory, and I should take defeat. We can agree on that, right? That my position is now the weakest, and your position has gone from the weakest to the strongest.
What? And I said you want to give, like, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he pulls this off. He's managing to say he was 100% wrong and we were 100% right. And he still comes off having you, somehow we're agreeing with him. You agree with me, right? Wait a minute. No, we disagreed with you. Stop fucking trying to make it look like you're somehow still right.
Look, if you haven't been able to internalize it properly, like, maybe wait to post. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so insane what he's doing. Like,
it's insane.
Have this fit before you go on camera and make a chart behind yourself of it. Or say it through a Dilbert. I don't understand.
Say it through a
Been waiting
Dilbert.
20 years for Dilbert.
Come on.
Dilbert, and then this is like if George R.R. Martin, in addition to not finishing that book, was dicking around on YouTube about vaccines.
Save it for a Dilbert hashtag a very special Dilbert.
Yeah. Hashtag.
I think that should be the title.
So let's listen to more.
That we can just say that's true. The people who didn't get vaxxed are absolutely in the winning position.
Oh. Hashtag
win.
a very special Dilbert.
You win. You are the winners. You are the winners.
He just keeps saying this.
Let me say that part with no ambiguity.
Okay, so
you won.
It's still
You
kind of
won.
ambiguous how you keep saying that.
All of my fancy analytics got me to a bad place. All of your heuristics, don't trust these guys, it's obvious, totally worked.
You
Okay.
dork.
Okay.
I mean, that is a great comic, actually, Dilbert, because that is like kind of a perfect name of like Dilbert.
Dilbert.
Yeah, like he had something going.
So this person made a great point. I think he missed the point. I don't see winners or losers. I see people that have been lied to, people that are now terminally injured and worse, dead, nothing to celebrate, and I'm unvaccinated.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? I guess one side of
So he said the correct position. I have to correct him too for YouTube. He said that the correct position was the no vax and natural immunity. But the vaccine, as you and I know, Kurt, is safe and effective, and it will keep you from being severely ill or hospitalized or death. And it will slow the spread and contraction of the virus. So we know that. I'm just reporting what he's saying.
And also, I'd like to debunk the rumors that one side of Justin Bieber's face won and one lost because of the There's nothing.
I can just see Justin Bieber. You happy? You won. You won. You win.
Yeah.
My paralyzed side of my face wins.
That is not.
I
Anyway,
clearly, this side of my face was clearly wrong.
I don't know. Can Elon? Now, Elon can say on Twitter that he lost.
So here's how. When I saw that video of Scott Adams, I was like, oh, good. I put together a segment patting him on the back for doing that. I don't like him referring to people who questioned the COVID narrative as anti-vax because they're not. Or some of them are, but people like us aren't. Most people who are questioning it weren't, or are not anti-vax. But then I went to his Twitter feed, and he starts saying shit like this. It was a coin flip, and some guessed right.
What, those of us who invested in Pfizer?
So what he's saying is, hey, he didn't really get it wrong. He just got unlucky. It was a coin flip, and you guys got lucky this time. And next time he could have got lucky. It's not because he's dumb or that he's wrong or that he wasn't properly skeptical.
Hold on a minute. We've come a long way from science and trusting the science to
Right,
it was a
to
coin flip. That's how science works? That sounds very similar to
He's
non-scientific.
He's got a whiteboard with fucking game theory behind it, but then it turns out to be. I was like, oh, at least he has the integrity and character to admit he was wrong, which he does, but then he backtracks.
I didn't think he admitted he was wrong with any character. It sounded like he was trying to desperately say he's not wrong while he.
Yes, that's what I said.
Sounds like he finally got to this part.
He finally got here.
I got it. It's a coin. It was not a coin flip, Scott.
So then he says, you guessed that he said guess. People guessed right. He said guess. He says we're in a hindsight phase. Whoever was certain during the fog of war is claiming genius now. No, we weren't certain.
Just smarter than Scott Adams.
Yeah, we were, but we were certain that you couldn't be certain about what you were saying. That's what we were certain about, and we were certain that the things they were saying were lies.
Dude, the
like the
projection.
fact that you could vaccinate your way out of this pandemic, I knew was a lie in early 2021. So that was almost 2 years ago. I knew that. And people still don't know that. So again, go ahead. You want to say something?
He claimed what's so crazy is like you could tell how his brain, it's like that projecting thing that you keep talking about.
Yes.
How he thinks is the whole time when he was sneering at anyone, like as if you're a moron to even think.
Yes.
There could be a problem with this.
That's right.
And so he was claiming genius, and that's what you're doing when you're making a chart of real basic shit. Like
a real basic
you don't need
shit
to make a chart about.
Yes.
So he imagines like, great, now I'm not the official genius. And I have a picture of a brain in my profile.
Well, here's one more.
The fog of war. War on who?
This guy says, early on, I saw a stat that said the vaccine hesitant were largely those with no education and those with postgraduate degrees. Said differently, coin flippers and those who knew better. He says, I'll bet college professors have the highest vax rate. So
they don't want to be fired. They don't want to lose their positions.
Yeah, that's right. because they're mandated to be. Our friend in Florida, I'm blanking at Tim Canova, almost lost his job over it. That's why they're
second only to truckers from Canada.
That's right. By the way, the truckers in Canada had a higher rate of vaccination than the general population. The truckers. Hey, I don't want to be a winner. I wish I was wrong. So many family and friends have been injured by this. It's devastating. Now, those injuries are rare. So I have to tell you what the YouTube science is, that there are adverse events, but those are rare. It was never a competition. Some drank the Kool-Aid, some didn't. And the Kool-Aid drinkers berated everyone else for 2 years. Jobs were lost, relationships were destroyed, families torn apart, and people lost their lives. The only winners are in Davos. I like how he spells it with a C instead of a K, because that's how you spell Kool-Aid, with a K.
Oh, that's right.
Why do you think they spelled it with a K?
I don't know. It wasn't Kool-Aid either. It was like Weiler's or something.
No, there's Kool-Aid and then there's Weiler's.
No, I mean that Jim Jones drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh, they
Jim
drank
Jones.
Weiler's?
Maybe it wasn't. I don't want to besmirch the Weiler's sugar drink name, but it wasn't actual Kool-Aid. It was some cheap brand.
Give me some Razzles. They're a whole candy store in a package. So there's Scott Adams. At least he admitted it, kind of, but then he's like, you guys got lucky.
And that's such a, like, beyond anything politics or anything. That's such a arrogant, like Sam Harris level of arrogant, not as smart as you think you are, energy from him. Like, were you just drawing charts and you think that means you're smart?
I don't know, but
you know, some smart people do. They figure just
so if you're a critical thinker, he calls you anti-vax. If you if you are properly skeptical of big pharma and the government as captured by big pharma, then you're an anti-vaxxer. You're not a critical thinker.
Isn't he like? I don't want to know if it's specifically conservative, but he's on the conservative end where
you would think. That's what I think he is. I think he's a libertarian. I could be wrong about all that, so don't go by me.
I think he didn't like Trump, right? And there was like a hatred of these people you imagine are Trump people that are injured. You know, they made it, even though Trump was a real pro-vaccine guy.
Trump wants credit.
Who would like credit for it?
The warp speed.
I think it's just mixing up your other hates and superiorities, you know?
Yes.
You know, hey, if I'm the guy that fucking invented Dilbert, I'm going to think pretty highly of myself. Going to a bar like...
I mean, the way he acts is how I want to act all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, fucking dummies, stupids, everybody's an idiot except me. Shut up. And here the thing is, and if you get it right, you're lucky.
I'm still the guy who created Dilbert.
That's right.
Dipshit.
And I got more Twitter followers than you. So that's how I want to act.
Yeah.